welcome back to the shop. In my first video, I walked you through the process that I do to prepare a project for cutting, including putting the entry holes in, and then I showed you the very first center cut on this one. And now I just wanted to show you what it looks like after about an hour of cutting on the scroll saw. So as you can see, I have most of the interior cuts done. There's just about 6 more of the larger ones, and then I have to cut all around the outside. Today I had a little bit of trouble with my blades. I had to replace one. Obviously they get dull after a little while and they don't cut as well, and they also it can damage the project if you're not careful. And the other thing is I have the set screw here that holds the blade in place. A lot of times there's a buildup of grease. If you put a new blade in, you have to kind of take it out and wipe it off with a shop towel. So I had to do that a couple times. I was just having some trouble with my blade today, and it's just how it goes sometimes. But anyways, I've got this much done. And so I'll keep you posted on the next video of how I'm progressing with that. Thanks. All right, so I'm just going to do the last little bit of a cut on this project, and then it'll be done with the scroll sawing. So we'll just... When you get to a little section like this, instead of turning your blade, it's easier to back up and kind of come from the other direction, and then you get a more defined point. And it's also, depending which blade you have, it's a little easier to do it that way. Just spin it around and just do the last little bit. On the home stretch. Always a little bit of a relief because you're hoping nothing breaks in the process of cutting, and it has happened, but usually it's okay. Gotta hold the pieces tight together at the end here where I started. And we are done. So I'm going to shut that off. Again, loosen everything off. And we're going to start taking all the scrap wood off, and we end up with a little piece of the Z there. So now we're just going to come on over to the table, and I'm going to remove the tape and the pattern. So here's where that blue painter's tape comes into play. So you can see it comes off pretty slick. If I just had the pattern glued directly on it, it's a real struggle, as I said, and it's really almost impossible to get off completely, and you have to sand it. So this works much, much better. Just takes a couple minutes to get that all off. So once we're done getting this all off, I'll just give it a light sand on camera, and then I'll fine tune it, sanding both sides, and then I'll take a, depending on how large the openings are, I have several other sanding options. I have a sander that can get these kind of holes here, where they're a little bit larger, on my spindle sander. Otherwise, I'll just take a small piece of sandpaper and get all the little parts I can't get with that. So sanding takes a few minutes usually too, and then after that we're going to be finishing it. So that'll be another day. I'll show that process. Obviously, if I just trace the pattern on, again with simpler patterns I can just trace it, then you wouldn't have this step, but it's cleaner overall lines. You can have a look what that looks like. And now I'm just going to do a quick sand. Usually I sand the back first. Actually, I have a little leftover tape here to take care of. You don't want to have to sand that stuff because it just gums up the hand sander. All right, so I'm just going to turn this on and do a quick sand on this. sanding done. I don't like to use this too much on delicate parts because there's a lot of vibration and it can break pieces off. And I also use, if it's a larger flat piece, I'll use the belt sander, but again, it's pretty aggressive for something like this. So usually I just do that and then do the rest with the hand sandpaper. All right, so I'm all done the sanding, and here's what it looks like. So all that's left to do now is to finish it with some raw linseed oil. Because it's a trivet, it'll be used for some items that might be hot. There's certain stains and finishes that are not recommended with heat, so usually and with food. So raw linseed oil is one of the things that they tell you to use, so that's what I'm going to put on this one. So I have it in a tray with an old cookie rack that'll drain my linseed oil. I'm going to apply it with a cloth and then wipe it off. So I'll show you that. All right, so what I'm going to do is, easiest with a big project like this where there's lots of the openings, to dump it in some kind of tray. So I'm just going to dump some linseed oil all over on top. And where I can, just kind of soak it in that. Always open the doors or windows as much as I can when I'm using this. It gets pretty strong. And I'm just going to go inside where I can't quite reach my cloth, and then I'm going to be wiping that off shortly. Just kind of quick. I'm going to put a little bit more on there because I can't quite get in some of those openings. And I can just dump it right back in after. Lots simpler. Can't quite get everything here. I'm going to dip my cloth in it and get those last few little spots. Turn it from every direction because sometimes you think you have it and then you don't. Okay, now that it's all coated, I'm going to take it over to the old cookie rack and just set it on there for a couple minutes to let it drip, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a clean rag. So let's see. Oops, I've got it here on my rack, just drying for a couple of minutes, or dripping for a couple of minutes. And while I'm at it, I've got a couple of these little puzzles I'm just going to do at the same time while I've got the linseed oil in my tray. I try to do a lot of my staining or varnishing or whatever it is in batches when I have a few items, because then I've got everything set up and also don't have to smell up the shop every day when I'm doing that. So I usually try to get a few things in the same color or the same product, and then I do them all together. Set those on the tray. Little bear puzzles. I have done quite a few of these little animal puzzles. They were really popular this past Christmas. I had a lot of orders for various ones of them. They're fun little puzzles for children, and they're pretty simple, but they're still good. Kids like them, and the parents like them, and it's not too many parts to them. My little loon. Yeah, a lot of people really like those, so I'll probably do a bunch more of those in the future. Try to get different ones, and I can take custom orders on them too if people are looking for a specific animal. There's just tons of different patterns out there that I can do, and they're pretty quick and easy, so that's a good way for me to use up a lot of my scraps. I'm going to just turn that over, let that drip the other way for a second or two, and then I'm going to wipe it all off and then put it back on the rack to fully cure and dry. And it'll take a while. The linseed oil is very slow drying. It takes quite a while, like a day or two before it's completely dry. So you want to have some time to let them sit out after you get it done. And it just makes it a nice, really nice color. It's the natural wood. I haven't added anything else to it, just this oil. And that's all I need to add. And it keeps it quite nice. I really like the look of it. And that, bring that under the camera. There we go. That is the finished product. And it turned out pretty well. I made this one a little narrower than the last one. The last one was the full 3/4 inch. This one's about a 1/2 inch thick, so it's probably a little bit better for the trivet, not quite so high. I might have to make one of these for myself because I really like it. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to dump the linseed oil back into my container. You can salvage most of that. Just have to have a clean pan to start with. And then I'll give it a little rinse and it'll be ready to go for next time. Okay, so I have another project ready to start now that I've completed the last one. It's just drying in the rack and it's ready to go. So thanks very much for stopping by the shop. I hope you learned a few things and I hope you can appreciate some of the time that it takes to make these projects. So we'll see you again another time. Bye.